There was a case where a lawyer who's now been disbarred, he used AI to get cases or to help him set precedent. And it turns out the AI doesn't know the difference between actual law cases and movie scripts. And so he brought forward these cases that fit the condition of, his case. However, the examples were all fictitious. Veracity is going to be a big deal. With more data being created, what is real is becoming increasingly hard to figure out, especially if it's information.
You can't eliminate hallucinations today, but you can reduce them drastically by using a few techniques, one of which is called RAG.
Just to clarify for our audience, is that an acronym?
Yes, it stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. So what that really means in kind of non-tech speak, it checks the veracity of the data, it augments the quality of the data against private data that an enterprise has, not against public data that is out on the internet whose quality is mixed. So with RAG, you're able to then verify that and guide it to just a better result.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of IT Visionaries. And today I have a special guest. His name is Prince Kohli. He is the CTO of Automation Anywhere. And if you've been a longtime listener, Prince joined us back in 2020 to talk about what is happening in the world of robotic process automation. We brought him back because this is one of my favorite industries. Things have definitely changed. We're going to find out how much of what he talked about has come true or how much has changed. Prince, welcome back to the show.
Albert, it's always great to be here. Thank you to you and thank you to all the listeners. I was here, now a while ago. And
November of 2020.
What pandemic, right? What AI?
For anyone who's not familiar, let's start with robotic process automation. So I'm going to take us back to 2020, and then I'm going to kick it over to Prince so that he can kind of catch us up as to what's happening to the industry. So prior to even meeting Prince, the robotic process automation industry was born from this idea that you could use an assistant or robot that could help you handle some of the repetitive tasks. That was especially what was considered for automation, repetitive tasks on your computer. Where it was really cool was it didn't need APIs. And that was like where things got really interesting for people, is like, we all know we do our work across multiple software platforms. Sometimes these platforms don't have APIs. So a lot of our work, our humans' work, is basically spent transforming information in one software platform to another. This is evident in Excel. If you've ever made an Excel list, you got the information from somewhere. How'd you get it there? And so what RPA's original promise was, like, this assistant could live in your computer and basically do these things for you all the time, without fail. And it started to work. I mean, we know that the industry started to boom, right? And so when Prince joined us last time, we'll link the notes and link the show in the show notes. He kind of shared a little bit what Automation Anywhere was up to. But we're now 300 episodes, 4 years later. Prince, let's start. That's where we originally, what the promise of RPA was. What has happened to the industry now?
A lot, I would say. Let me talk about a few things that I think would be of interest to everyone here. So about 5 or 6 years ago, RPA and automation was what we call as Gen 1. You could automate 10 to 20% of your tasks. You could faithfully emulate many things that humans did, people did on their desktops, but not everything. Then right around the time that we talked, we were in the middle of what we call Gen 2. AI, we were already using AI to understand human intent. We were using AI to read the written word, start beginning to understand it, using AI to discover processes and also understand documents and so on. And that would lead to, I would say, about 30% or 40% of work that could be automated around that time. And you could think of saving millions of dollars if you talk about what impact it has on enterprises. In the last couple of years, we have moved on to what we call Gen 3 of automation. Gen AI has been introduced. AI is embedded across platforms now. And what that allows you to do, if you talk dollars, you can now, and we will talk, I'm sure, later in the show, you can now impact hundreds of millions of dollars of savings. You can now make, yes, really, isn't it? We have real world examples. So, I think it has gone beyond people's imagination and already is always stretching people's imagination. And now you can impact and make thousands of people their lives better. People just have, uh, I think they get used to AI being front and center or as an assistant, and sometimes embedded in their processes and their applications. So many things have changed. And then at some point we should talk about what the impact it had during COVID.
Yeah, let's go right into it. Imagine seamless customer experiences, fast internet, and the bandwidth required to embrace new technologies. Are you ready to experience the network that makes it all possible? There's no network quite like Zayo's. With North America's largest independently owned fiber network, Zayo provides the backbone, connecting your organization to what's next. Thousands of data centers to cloud on-ramps, towers, and points of presence. Zayo's network carries massive amounts of data globally every single day. What really sets Zayo apart is their coast-to-coast routes spanning from Canada into Mexico that you simply won't find anywhere else. The most innovative companies choose Zayo because they are not just connecting places, but connecting what's next for you. Discover the power of Zayo's network today. www.zayo.com/network. Because let's go right into some examples, because this is where things get really cool. When we first talked in 2020, when people were talking about what was RPA being used for, there were things like financial documents, like health insurance, billing, and codification into costing tables and reimbursement tables. So this idea, for anyone who's listening, is like, what does that sound like? This sounds like literally people emailing in forms or scanning forms, someone going there and pulling the information off and transforming it onto another form and clicking submit. Like, this literally was a human being's job. And now this got automated. I had another example of a franchise that had, thousands upon thousands of locations. And when every night to close the books, a person had to then, calculate up their seats, and there would be like all these roll ups. It would roll up to the regional would roll up to the main. And this was how corporate could know how franchises and locations did for the night. And people were doing that. So now they didn't need to do that. Just when they clicked save for their digital records, these RPA bots would come in and grab all the records and pull them up into the system. So that was like Gen 1, like you said. Talk to me. What happened during COVID? And what does it look like now? How do hundreds of millions come about?
So let me, I think humor interest examples, we love them. We love sharing them. So let me talk about, during COVID, what happened. I'll give you a couple of examples. And one is from the city of Seattle. So we all remember the early days of vaccination, when when everyone was trying to figure out who gets vaccinated. It's based on age group. It's based on your other factors. And then there is a phase 1 of vaccination, phase 2. How many vaccines do you get? So it was a very complicated exercise. And what City of Seattle found was, now they had millions of people they had to reach out to. So they needed a way to figure out when, what, and how. Meaning, when do you reach out to them? How do you reach out to them? Meaning, is it email? Is it a phone call? Is it a letter? And then how do you do follow-ups? All of that is very manual, very intensive. And the data is across many, many systems. And sometimes the data is also requires parsing and understanding. At the same time, many employees of the city are not turning up for work. They are not well, or they are taking care of their own families. So it's kind of a perfect storm. So what they did, they called us and they said, how can you help? And with our platform, with using AI, we were able to go across all the systems, understand the documents, and understand all the records that they have of the citizens. From there on, we can use, of course, the regular logic that the employees use to say, who do we call? Who do we get in touch with, and when? So millions of people, therefore, are able to get vaccines at the right time, which would otherwise not have been possible. A lot went into this, as you can imagine, but the outcome is really saving lives, thousands of lives. Another one, which I am particularly fond of, because this was an example from a hospital, NHS, the chain in UK, England. Nurses at that point, as you're aware, they were running around, and they were falling sick. They were always very, very busy. They were doing long days, and one thing that they were asked to do was check the amount of oxygen in each cylinder in each patient's room. And that is just robotic, work that this is not something nurses really should be doing. So what they did was they said, we are going to use cameras to read the gauges of oxygen cylinders. We are going to use that to figure out how much oxygen there is. Then we are going to automatically, in the back end, send more oxygen to those cylinders. So you imagine all the things that a hospital needs to operate. You suddenly automate all of that, and you use AI in some cases, you use RPA in some cases, you use APIs to run something, but all of it is just transparent to the people who are in need. It just happens, magically. So we are very proud of those. There are many, many examples, right? We can talk more about them, but I just bring
Yeah.
these up because I know that these are you can just feel them directly in your heart.
So that example you just gave with the gauges on the oxygen cylinders, that is, I'm going to use my words. That's sick. That is
Yeah, yeah.
beyond cool, because
Mm,
this is something that I think a lot of engineers maybe not thinking about right now, which is,
mm,
do you need specialized equipment? So this is where automation, AI, and RPA can actually bridge the gap between hardware and software capabilities. Because let's use your example. The old way, we have a fleet of people, nurses. They're going around reading gauges. So they have to take a manual read. There is no checks on if they did it right, meaning if they saw it incorrectly, if they, you know, recorded it incorrectly, you would have an inaccurate measure and therefore not clearly know how much oxygen was in the cylinder. At the same time, to automate it, the old way would have been, hey, we need a sensor. We need some type of technology that can read the sensors and compile the data from the sensors and then feed it to our oxygen refill system, right? So sensor development, that's expensive. But with AI, you've skipped sensor development. Like you said, you're just like, wait a second, you can just put a camera on the thing and the AI
correct.
can read what's on the camera. Your sensor has now been created. Now the data can flow, and there's no more manual recording. The likelihood of an inaccurate recording, which, look, we're people, we make mistakes, right? It happens all the time. But like
That's it.
and then the likelihood of an inaccurate recording, which, if you think people like, oh, but how often would something bad like that happen? I was like, dude, there are literally people that have had legs amputated, the wrong leg amputated because of a recording error. Like,
That's right.
this
It,
is a big deal.
that's correct.
It, and it's crazy because you've basically skipped the hardware manufacturing process, because you say, well, I can use existing equipment, use AI to read the equipment, and then use an AI decision machine to more likely make a good decision.
That's indeed correct. And I would, if I had to summarize that, AI, along with cameras and other such modern sensor devices, as opposed to the older actual sensors, you are able to then read surfaces of everything, just like a human eye sees it, right? What you listen to, or what you hear, or what you see, have become the our eyes and ears and senses, and you are able to then translate it and then do what people could do and help people out by doing it better and faster and with less errors. And these errors can be catastrophic, as you can imagine.
Give us an idea of, I guess, how did you know that this capability was now available to you? Or was it more like, hey, here's my problem. How could you possibly help me solve it? Like, how did this happen? Because I think this is a very unconventional use case of software, because a lot of times people like to use software to solve software-based problems, but this is a physical hardware labor problem that you're solving with software. Yeah,
Mhm.
how does the problem case arrive? Does your team instantly know, like, oh, we could do this? Or give us an idea of how solutions like this get constructed.
So, you use the word solution. I love that word because that's, I would say that's one of the core ways we approach our customers. We tend and try very hard to not sell technology. We essentially try to say, which problems are you having? What is your biggest pain point? What would you like to do? And there are a few ways of doing it. Often customers know. For example, in this case, they said, look, our just nurses have no time. And we said, okay, where are they spending time? They said, here are the few places they're spending time on. We said, oh, okay, our two of these we can solve for you, for example. In other cases, some customers, actually many large enterprises, they do what is it's like a hackathon equivalent of an like an ideathon for automation. They say, okay, of all the things that every what they call citizen developer, which is a citizen
Mhm.
user, what they do is they will say, okay, I wish I could, right? And they say, I wish I could. I do this every day. I wish I could just have an assistant that did it for me, right? Because many people, I mean, if you go back into maybe even now, right? Many people, there are parts of jobs that no one really likes, not because they're not important, but
Of
because
course.
they're so routine, they're mechanical. And if you look at the next generation that's coming up, they grew up with computers, they grew up with mobile phones, they know the power of technology. For them to go in into a workplace and say you have to do everything that you actually know technology can do, they would say, I hate my job. I don't want to do this job. So you have to allow them the space to say, I would like something that automates all this grunt work so I can do something which is more interesting, better for the company, better for my life, better for my customers, and so on. So in many cases, customers really think about solutions for problems they have, and they ask us to come and help us ideate, help them ideate on what to do. Sometimes we open it up. In many cases, the problems are have patterns, right? You know, what you do in one place goes into another. Like this gauge
Sure.
one, we use the same one, and in Japan, there is an oil company. They use this to now. They use a drone now. It goes and looks at a particular pressure gauge on the oil platform, so people don't have to make that. It's just a very risky journey, and says, okay, this is in the red or in the yellow. So then this is what we need to do. This is what we need to control. So a lot of this actually saves people lives and does of course makes the companies better as well.
When you get these problems, or like you said, you're going to come up, they're going to ask you, can RPA, can Automation Anywhere be part of the solution? Here's my problem. Is it your team? Because it feels like some of the use cases I've been hearing about for RPA are very actually multifaceted, right? Because like I
Mm,
said, when it was just software, it made sense that an engineer developer could just be like, oh, this is how it's going to connect and this is how it's going to work.
mm,
This will fix it. But we're seeing now, like your oil and gas example, nurses and physical, it's crossed into the physical world. You know what I mean? Like this
mm,
is, I guess, who are the architects of these solutions internally? Are they always automation, like your own company internal resources? Do you partner with other people? Like, how do you come up with these solutions? Because I'm sure every day people are bringing to you even harder challenges because you solved data extraction from documents and
mm.
application in software long ago. That's been solved. Okay, so
Yeah, yeah,
you're on to the
yeah.
next thing.
Yeah. So it's it, so I wish I could give you one answer, but there are probably three different ways we see people do this. There are companies that have what they call centers of excellence, which are centralized for a large enterprise, and they will work on the company's behalf to make some of these solutions. The second one is a partner-led approach. Some companies have favorite partners, and they would say, "I would like to do this, and I will bring a partner in." And we often, or very often, we would train the partners as well, which is the right thing to do. And in many cases, we do it directly for them. And we have a team that builds solutions for companies. The outcome that we desire, we all of us desire, is really success for the customer. So in that sense, to us, whatever works best for the customer, literally, it's a very interesting example of an oil natural gas company in South America. So we help them build what is called a tax brain. And we should talk more about it because this is one of the places where they're going to save $1 billion in a year. I mean, this scale is completely magnificent. And over there, we give them the ways and techniques to do it, and how to get a high reliability, a low hallucination system out of the data that they have. And they build it for themselves. Because now with Gen AI and many other technologies, and including RPA, you don't need to understand programming or you don't need to understand the lower level computer science stuff that we just kind of hide under the covers. You can be a domain expert in your own domain and then operate at that level because you are the one who understands the problem and you are the one who want to create the solution.
Help me like picture that, because this is because with like you said, with Gen AI is here, RPA has continuously evolved. Like you said, you've already been implementing AI solutions in the in the business. When I think about it, because when I think about it, especially to someone who maybe is more of a casual listener that hasn't maybe delve into AI, is not super familiar with how it can help code, I think they all jump to Jarvis, Iron Man, right? Jarvis
Mm,
and Iron Man is what everyone wants, which is like, hey, you tell Jarvis to make you something, it can understand what you said, it can
mhm.
control other robots, actual robots, and it can actually build you things. You know what I mean? Like Jarvis helps, like in the movie Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr.'s character is actually just telling
Yeah,
the robot, telling a
that's
computer to
right.
control robots to make him things. Like he doesn't have
That's
to
right.
come up with a solution or anything. Like he just makes it, you know?
So, so the funny thing. So our internal system, which we use because obviously we are very highly automated. Our system is called Jarvis for that very same reason. Uh, so 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 we because that's really our north star. So I used to joke, and there is some truth in that. I said what we are building. If you remember Star Trek, the captain would say, you would tap your chest and say, "Computer, start the engines." Computer, do this. Now, starting the engines is not there is no button someone presses, right? There is many things you have to do to get the engines revved and started, and then other things have to be done. So all of this is hidden under, and there are bots that run other bots, and there are measurements that need to be taken, and safe things have to be done. So, we're actually there. So today, when you write software, you actually tell the software what to do. In our case as well, to take a real world example, when you are building an automation, you actually talk to the system and you say, I would like you to look through all the documents in this repository, parse them for all tax related docs for Brazil that apply to this particular jurisdiction, and find me the laws that are relevant to use cases that would be in this email or in this for this customer that comes. You can be as specific as that, or you can write something which is more templatized, and the software gets created for you. You don't have to worry about the software. You don't, you see the flow, but you don't really see the software unless you really want to. So that reality is upon us. It is. I think it is moving faster than people realize.
Tell us like how it's impacted, I guess, what you and your teams are building and moving towards, because you're getting it from many directions, right? Because a company like yours is hearing, like you said, the biggest problems of the companies, they're bringing it to you that they have to solve all the time. So these are
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
typically not one-off problems. Like these are real problems. Like I need a solution, this is
mm-hmm,
expensive, or it hurts, or it can be any number of reasons why it's a problem.
mm-hmm.
Then you have your own engineering team who is building solutions. You have other people who recognize what's possibly available to them and like that your systems can ingest and take in. And then the final piece is this like I would guess validity. I call it verification validity. I think that is the new frontier where everyone wants to, because if you because if you're not, if you didn't learn comp sci, for example, and you aren't as versed and you build an application, well, how do you know it's doing the right thing? So then you need a
Mm-hmm.
way to verify it and quality control it or quality check it. So then that whole cycle. Talk to me. How is this? I guess these problems. How are they? How fast are they evolving? What is like time to implementation or from ideation to implementation? What's
Yeah.
happening in this space? Because I feel like let's say 4 years ago when we first spoke, if there was any hesitation, it might have been around implementation, but now I feel like I don't know what stops someone from trying to
Yeah.
automate now. I
Yeah.
have no
Yeah.
idea because I feel like this is, I'd love to understand the
Yeah.
implementation process and
Yeah.
how you guys go about teaching the person. This is how you can apply RPA. This is how you can apply it with AI. And then of course you can validate and check it, because if it's unchecked, that's a problem too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, but that's it's a probably one of the most important questions. It's also a very broad question. So let me take you one click down. So uh, when enterprises now deploy automation with AI, you can't just go in and say, I'm going to start using AI, because what does that really mean, right? You can't just say,
Yeah.
I'm going to take an LLM and I'm going to start using it, because honestly, that doesn't mean much, right? You really have to say, what is it? What am I using it for? What kind of data am I exposing it to? What prompts am I using? Because in my prompt, I could be leaking private data. There are famous examples. I don't want to name companies, but there are famous examples out there. I do not want to leak PII data. I don't want to leak PHI data. I don't want to leak company data. Who controls that? When do you have a human in the loop? What about the governance of the data? Meaning, which bots can see what data, which user can see what data. So there is a lot of detail that you can simplify using the right platform like ours, but the detail does have to be worked through. It's called data governance on one end, including AI model governance. On the other end, to reduce hallucinations, you can't eliminate hallucinations today, but you can reduce them drastically by using a few techniques, one of which is called RAG. And what RAG does, it says, I'm going to use your private data to essentially create the right queries so that the quality of returns that I get are just the higher quality returns correct in many more cases than they would be. And that is because you have essentially taken the internet data from LLM and then tuned it and filtered it based on your internal private data. So most of the examples I mentioned where people use Gen AI in our case, along with that, they use techniques like RAG and a few others to make sure that hallucinations are reduced. Because, I mean, you really cannot be doing any high impact critical process work without putting the technology in place. The good thing is that it has become consumable, meaning that an average user who is not a programmer, we are focused on that, and it has become real for them, and they can create their own, either the tax entity, they can create a sales entity that helps them with deal structure, they can create, billing entity, uh, and uh, and put the tools in place to make sure that what they're getting is, again, high quality, reliable, and data safe.
Just to clarify for our audience, is that an acronym? What are you what is that? Is that acronym that you're
Yeah.
using?
Yes, I should have done that earlier. It is RAG. It stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. So what that really means in kind of non-tech speak is it augments the veracity. It checks the veracity of the data. It augments the quality of the data against private data that an enterprise has, not against public data that is out on the internet whose quality is
Okay.
mixed. So with RAG, you're able to then verify that and guide it to just a better result.
There was a case where a lawyer who's now been disbarred, he
Yeah.
used AI to get cases or to help him set precedent. And it turns out the AI picked up because it doesn't know the difference between actual law cases and movie scripts. And so he brought
Yeah.
forward these cases that fit the condition of his, his case. However, the examples were all fictitious, and the lead judge was like, "Hey, man," and the other attorney was like, "This is ridiculous."
Something funny, sorry, on that one, last week, one of the big hyperscalers, they picked up a satire from The Onion and they thought that was real. So,
Oh,
these things can happen.
exactly. There's this new urgency, or like not urgency. I guess it's urgency. I don't know if it's quite urgency, but I feel like it's a need. It's definitely a need. Veracity is going to be a big deal, right? With more data being created, like you said, public internet data being created, what is real is becoming increasingly hard to figure out, especially if it's information, if it's just information. And so when you're talking about making decisions, critical business decisions, that whole concept of garbage in, garbage out, it's like you have to make sure that your AI, your RPA is based off of accurate, verifiable, secured, precise data so that it can make a good decision. Can't get clouded by external data, but also can't get clouded by internal, poorly created data. Give me an idea. Is that like the new problem that CTOs, like let's say I'm a customer of yours, where I say, hey, I want my team members to do this. However, my biggest fear is they create false or inaccurate records, which then will further make the AI less accurate.
That problem has so many parts. So I think if you talk about AI in general, now AI is based on data in that. There is nothing else but data.
Right.
If you have low quality data, inaccurate data, like you said earlier, you're going to have bad results. There is no magic, right? That is just the fundamentals of it. And therefore, the models that you either create or the models that you use, you must have something which is based on reliable data. Now, the good thing about AI is that um, it has the potential to ignore outliers. It can actually go for the truth if the truth is well represented, meaning if the sample size is large and the sample size has enough quote unquote truth in it, you'll be able to find it. The problem that occurs often is sample sizes are not very large, and sometimes you have biases that you do not recognize on day one, right? And we are aware of biases, whether it's based on skin color, whether it's based on where people live. Those biases creep into data sets, and then they will start influencing your own kind of decision AI as well. So the good thing about AI again is that because that is, I would say, done now more and more mathematically, you can go start fixing them slowly, and the system will learn, right? So, for example, if you are human in the loop on the loan making, on the loan giving aspects, and the human says, "Oh, okay, no, we really should be giving this person a loan. It's incorrect to stop it." The system learns. It says, "Oh, okay, now I have a new truth check, and I'm going to modulate my response based on that." So you can make it more reliable, more predictable over time based on the models, based on the your own policies. So that part exists, and I think over time there is some what is called explainability, meaning why was the decision taken. That is slowly becoming an area of research, more and more research. It is always important, but there is new techniques that allow you to explain or better explain why a decision was taken by AI. That again will hopefully reduce bias. Very important questions. Can't ignore it, and therefore you must, when you go in, you must be thinking about all of them. And
Yeah.
yeah, otherwise, I think you're going to have an unintended problem at your hand on your hands later.
Give us an idea in your perspective, like what do you think is going to come out of this industry in the next 5 to 10 years? What advancements do you foresee? Are you most excited about? And if you could paint a picture, kind of
Hmm.
share with us what you think some of the maybe some everyday problems that our audience or me or anyone listening experiences you think will soon be solved.
So I would say so a few things. And I'm going to talk about the automation industry and along with AI because AI really is making things better, and that's really automation. I think some industries that are going to be directly impacted and have been directly impacted. If you look at um, the translation industry, right? AI along with automation, where it picks up the data from various places, including domain-specific data, it does a really good job of translation. Those things are already coming into play.
Mm.
Most places where there is this concept called KYC, know your customer in banks, which is essentially a way to look at various parts of your profiles, including data that you pull from driver's license, passport, other profiles on the internet. That is going to be less and less manual because AI is going to be able to look at patterns that humans won't be able to look at. Many of the uh, I think in hospitals and clinics, and thank God for that, because I think those people are really overworked and they need all the help they can get. A lot of the interactions that doctors have to have with machines, like the after visit summary or getting better upfront report on the
There's a
patient.
lot of data entry. You got a lot of data
Oh
entry in
my
health
God,
IT.
yeah,
It's unbelievable.
unbelievable. Yeah. And that I think we are all waiting for it to change. I think the technologies are there now. Now it is making sure that when something bad happens, we don't get the wrong people blamed for it. But that thing is actually moving very fast as well, especially image-based diagnosis. And those things are already going into AI completely, almost completely, as a matter of fact. So life is changing. I mean, even if you look at self-driving vehicles, and sometimes I give an example of, look, when people who fight automation, I say, as humankind, do we not want to go into Mars? Do we want to go to Mars? We want to go to outer space. There is no way we can do that unless we have AI-driven systems which are very autonomous and which are able to understand the world around them and then make good decisions. So, if humans have to be there all over Milky Way and other places, we got to use AI.
Listen, I think that's a little bit far off. I mean, I love the idea that these different worlds can become part of our world. You know what I mean? When I think about, I used to always think about, hey, I used to joke with my friends that, hey, if Musk and crew figure out how to colonize Mars, but Earth's still in a good livable state, would you stay or would you go? And I was like, I would stay. Like,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know what's
yeah,
going on in Mars.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I would stay, but I know people want to go. So Prince, I got some fun scenarios I want to do with you, and you tell me if these are going to get solved in the near future with the combinations of robotic process automation and AI. And by the way, if you can, I'll add a little layer. Tell me how quickly can it happen? Like, next year, 5 years, 10 years, something like that. Okay. So you ready?
Okay.
TSA screening. How can that be sped up?
They already use AI. You know that, right? There is a lot of AI that's used in DSS screening. They look at nowadays. They look at your profile and your face and so on, and they make a lot of judgments based on that. So I over there, I think now checking in is already automated. I think that is going to be fully automated very, very quickly.
Well, listen, I've gone through global entry is fast, right? Like it takes a
There you
picture,
go.
it instantly
Yeah,
knows who you are. You're through in this
that's
blink of
right.
an eye. Global
That's right.
entry is like the coolest thing I've seen. And then so I was like, why can't this just be available to everybody? Just scan everybody's face. Just tell it if you're flying in the United States, you got to get scanned. I mean, that's just it.
Yeah,
All
that's
right,
right.
ready? Local traffic. Local traffic lights seemingly are never optimized for the flow of traffic. When is that going to get optimized and fixed?
That does not require new invention. We have the data. I was actually talking to the CIO of Santa Clara City, and he was telling me they have all the data. They have data coming out of their wazoo, and they are actually beginning to do some of these things. So I think that's going to happen. And it is that is a matter of when, not if. I think in the next few years, 5 6 years, the cities that are more in the forefront of technology, they're going to start going away from essentially static decision making in these
Yeah.
lights to say, oh, okay, I can do much, much better. I know where the traffic is. I can do north south differently. I can do left right differently. Oh my God, that will change life completely.
I am predicting. I think this is we're maybe more than 10 years away for this, just because government infrastructure takes a long time to move.
Yeah,
But you
yeah,
know
yeah.
how there's certain cities where they don't use dividers, but they just use the overhead lights that say,
Mm-hmm.
hey, this is a one way flow of traffic, or there's an
Yeah,
X, so you can't flow.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
What happens when the whole world goes to that technology and every street's that
yeah,
technology, when they can
yeah.
optimize the flow of traffic at all times? I think that'd be kind of cool. All right, I got some more. All right. Flight rerouting. Why do I have to go to a customer service agent when I have a delayed flight and wait in line or wait on the phone for who knows how long? When will flight rerouting happen automatically?
Why has it not already occurred automatically? You tell me that first.
I
I,
don't know. I don't know. It makes
I
no
think
sense.
people are. I
Why do I have
think
to
it
wait in
makes no
line? I have
sense.
to wait in line
It it,
forever.
it makes no sense. It makes no sense. I think they're getting there. You know, I would like to whine against the airlines, but they have a tough. They're in a tough business as well. But banks and airlines, I think they are people who can gain the most out of it and the fastest, and they will have much better customer service. Customer service in many of these is basically sucks, and I think this is the way for to this is the way for them to get better. Yeah, there's smart people out there. I think they know what to do. But I think that's going to happen. I think that's going to happen is a matter of years, small years. Just a few years, not many.
All right, I got one more. One more. All right, it's a super simple one. But as a property manager, I
Mm,
have to collect invoices from
mm,
all different types of
mm.
vendors, and of course, categorize and tag them. I do this all by hand. There's no other way to do it. So, and it's and so property invoices. So I want to be able to take a picture with my camera, and instantly it just goes into the most optimized tax record that it needs. But it has to be able to read, not only traditional, it has to be free flowing because the invoices that I get are all over the place. When will that be automated?
You can do that today with our platform. There is my plug. You can do that today.
There you
You can do that
go.
today for various languages, for handwritten text as well. The problem with invoices is there is no set format, right? If there
Yes, sir.
is for 100 vendors, there are probably more than 100 formats. But you can do that today. It takes, you don't require a CS degree to do it. You just have to fit it the invoice, take a picture, send it in. It will recognize most of it. In a few cases, it will ask for help. And if you help it 3 times, it doesn't need help after that. That will work today. That is for large businesses and small businesses such as yours as well. Reduce the time you spend on that. That is most painful.
Yeah, that's terrible, right? I get like my guy Bob is
Hmm.
very good at plumbing. The problem is he hand writes invoices. I'm like, oh
Yeah,
my god.
yeah.
He's a master plumber, but he's older. He's like, I'm not changing. I don't need to change my, I'm coming close to retirement. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'll catalog it myself. Sounds good. Prince, it's been a lot of fun having you on the show. I think some of the things that we as just general citizens don't realize, like you said, is how close the technology is there already to automate so much of our lives. I think it's going to take some investment from our government leaders, people who are more in charge of like some of the decision trees, unfortunately, that hold us, that we're beholden to. But if they make these decisions, you're saying the technology is here. Like it can be done. Some of these things can be done, which is why having you here is so much fun. It's just a matter of when will the investments get made. And what gives me excitement is in hearing it from you is that this is like a game of dominoes or something, because once one company does it, I think the rest will follow because they can't afford to not be there. So we
They
just
don't
need
have a
a
choice.
leader to just be like, this, we got to do it.
It's going to happen. Albert, we should make a date. 3 years from now, one more podcast, and we should see how many dominoes have fallen since then.
Yes. Listen, okay. If in 3 years, uh, I can do any type of invoice and do all my taxes. You're saying that's done. Okay, that's good. Traffic light optimization, cannot wait. Cannot wait for that because you've been there. Everyone we know has been there,
That's it.
stuck at a red
Yeah.
light when no cars are coming the other way. Like, what's going on?
That's
All right. Missed flights. We've all missed flights. Okay. Everyone that we know has missed flight, missed but it doesn't matter. You've missed something. Can I get a reroute? Can I get a new ticket? TSA screening. I agree. I think it's already kind of there.
Yeah.
But it's kind of safe for people that are in global entry. Like, let's bring everyone up to that technology. Like, why are we? It makes no sense. It boggles my mind. You know how when you get to the airport and it's like sometimes you got to be like 2-3 hours early. It's crazy.
So 2027, we now have a deadline.
All right, 2027. If all of these things are solved by 2027, that's pretty good. I'll be like pretty stoked. My kids, I'll be jealous of my kids. Like they're living in the best time. Come on.
There you go. Should be fun. I look forward to that. But it is good, right? This is good. It's also a lot of work is just boring, silly work. You really want to actually have them, not have them stand in queues all the time or on the road all the time, stuck in a car.
I still remember one of my first temp jobs. It was a data entry job, and it was the turn of the millennium. Y2K, for anyone old enough, you're going to be like, that was comical. For anyone young enough, you're going to think that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. But when Y2K turned around, people thought like the world was going to end because the year dial on computer systems didn't account for 4 digits. It only accounted for 2 digits. So people were nervous that when it hit 00, it was going to be a problem. I had to manually go enter into a 4-digit system. I was like, you can't automatically do this. Like, no, so we're paying you. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Thousands of records. It's 1999.
Oh my God. Not that long ago, 25 years.
Yeah. That's what work was back then, guys. That's what work was back then. So for people wanting to, you wish the old days were here. It was not fun. It was not fun. Prince, thanks for joining us today on IT Visionaries.
Albert, it was a lot of fun. Thank you so much.
Imagine a world where your data flows like electricity, unseen, yet powering everything you do. A world where high availability, low latency, and disaster recovery are not just expectations, but realities. Welcome to the future, powered by Zayo's network. Zayo has meticulously designed North America's largest independent fiber network, a network that isn't just vast, but strategically planned, connecting the places, that matter most to you. Thousands of data centers, cloud on-ramps, towers, and critical points of presence. Cross-continental routes unique to Zayo offer connections that you just can't find anywhere else. Zayo provides routing diversity that ensures your operations never skip a beat, and ultra-low latency for when microseconds matter. In a world that never stops, Zayo is the network underneath it all, helping the most innovative and forward-thinking companies grow. Because Zayo doesn't just connect places, they connect possibilities. Discover the power of Zayo's network today. Visit www.zayo.com/network.